it's a video by Time Player, and it's called "Why Starfield's Procedural Generation Won't Suck." Like, okay, before we start watching the video, the thing is, whenever we're talking about Starfield, I just want to fucking play it first, because I don't trust Bethesda at all, like at all. Where's the all right?
From the rocks at your feet.
So before we watch that video, I just want to show you this meme. Come on.
From the rocks at your feet to the mountains in the distance, to the people and creatures that live in these worlds. That isn't just a backdrop. That moon is actually there orbiting the planet. Yes, you can visit it too. That mountain is not just a backdrop. You can walk all the way to the top of that mountain.
This is why I don't trust like Bethesda or Todd Howard or anything that they say. I want to fucking see it with my own eyes, and I want to play it. I don't want to be like, yeah, I'm excited about like another potentially good space game. But you know what? On the other hand, I'm thinking maybe my space game fix is going to be solved by playing Space Engineers again once this gets released, because this may be fucking buggy, may be bad, it may be whatever. Like, you never know.
When the first 15 minutes of Starfield gameplay premiered at the Bethesda Showcase in 2022, I was quite skeptical of it. Sure, the gameplay was a bit rough around the edges, gunplay looked lackluster, and even the planet that was showcased at the time...
You know what I noticed? I'm just gonna pause it for a second. You know what I noticed? I noticed like a bunch of new YouTubers popping up that are just covering Starfield. And the issue with Starfield is when it gets released, that's that. It's gonna be like, yeah. And then what do you talk about after that? I'm not talking about this guy, but I'm like, I saw like Starfield talks and all that, a bunch of YouTube channels. So once it gets released, those channels are basically gonna be done, right?
Seemed awfully barren. However, I was more questioning the level of ambition Bethesda was describing during its reveal. 1,000 planets, all
I don't even trust this number.
Inch by inch. I constantly
Honestly.
wondered, how could this even be possible? The staple mark of Bethesda games are the level of detail their worlds have, not only in the environments, but the interactions with those environments,
Fallout.
and the people of those environments as well. The exploration nature of Bethesda games are what make them so damn memorable, and products that you can practically play
or bugs, like in Fallout 76.
for hundreds of hours without them ever feeling repetitive. Starfield, being a game with over seemingly 1,000 planets, did raise some very valid questions.
Yeah, dude, Skyrim is still huge after 10 years, yes. But like, is this gonna be 1,000 Skyrims? You see what I'm saying? Because like, 1,000 planets is a lot. And most of them are, yes, procedurally generated. Like the lands, because you're not gonna be able to like go around the whole fucking planet, right? So you're gonna have maps. Is there actually gonna be like 1,000 different maps that are gonna contain shit? Or is it like gonna be like 997 whatever maps that just like contain, I don't know, fucking Quantanium or whatever it's called, like resources. And you go there just to dig, and then you come back to the like 3 spots that you can actually do something on. That's the question.
So deep while being so wide. Just 2 weeks ago,
How can it be so deep while being so wide? Giggity?
it be so deep while being so wide. Just 2 weeks ago from today, we had the Starfield Direct. I watched it, live in fact, because as much as I was doubting the ambition of Bethesda Maryland, I still wanted to see more about this project. And I am glad I did. Because this is the only showcase of an upcoming video game.
Rumpy, I have a question. Is there a thing as a good bug? Yeah, the only good bug is a dead bug.
Left me this impressed to this degree. Seriously, It was very well done, and I can admit now that I am indeed excited for Starfield. But in my opinion, the biggest piece of information we acquired from this showcase, the information that soothes my nerves a little, was the explanation on how the procedural generation system is going to work. When you hear of procedural generation...
So the good thing that they did, as far as I know, is that their procedural generation is not just like having a bunch of assets, as in like rocks and stuff like that, that you design yourselves and you just like plonk them around the thing. As far as I remember, Todd said that they have made basically like mini biomes by hand, and they are using those they're using those as templates for the procedural generation. So they're like being copy pasted around the thing, around the planet or the map, and then like there are going to be some variations due to the procedural generation. That's a different approach to what CAG did, basically, and honestly, it seems like it's a bit more procedural than what CAG did.
You probably think of Minecraft,
but then
or
again, you
No Man's
never know.
Sky, a system that randomly generates terrain and environment around you according to set parameters.
Yeah, this is what I'm
and
talking
while this
about.
system is acceptable, it does throw away a great extent of handcrafted detail.
Oh, this is No
in
Man's Sky.
exchange
Okay.
for scale. For example, No Man's Sky does have trillions of planets. But how many times do you have to visit planets before everything just starts to blend in and look the same?
Yeah.
See, this is possibly the largest problem I had with No Man's Sky, is that after a few hours of exploration, everything just became the same. It became
You
boring
explore
dull,
and
no
you see the
disrespect,
same
but
thing
no
over
matter
and
how
over
much
again.
the game has improved, that perception still hasn't really modified for me. This is why
Yeah,
when
Unreal
Starfield
5's
was announced with
terrain
one
generation is something like they described for Starfield, as far as I know, but it's not made in UE5. I think you know that, Rokumo.
for me.
I'm just saying
this
for the
is
other
why when
people.
Starfield was announced with 1,000 planets, it was a little disheartening to me, but after learning more about it thanks to the recent showcase, I do share a great extent more optimism on the way this system will work. Look, Bethesda knows that you won't be able to visit all 1,000 planets in your playthrough. Sure, the very few minority who are extremely dedicated may achieve that, but the vast majority of players will put in 60 to 100 hours and call it a day for their first playthrough. Now, how many planets would you probably visit in those hours? Well, even if you focus highly on exploration, you probably won't top over 100 to 150. This is why Bethesda uses an interesting concept of procedurally generating environment with handcrafted points of interest. So basically, every planet does have its own parameters. For example, in this screenshot,
That's
we can
how it's done,
identify
yeah.
the type of surface, the gravity, the atmosphere, the fauna, flora, and even water.
Wait, let me rewind it a bit. Show resources. Okay, so you have 2 spots that you can land on. So you can't land on the whole. So there's going to be like one map and a second map. Sure.
We can identify the type of surface, the gravity, the atmosphere, the fauna, flora, and even water. And these parameters will apply to everyone's game. As you land, a 1 kilometer tile will be generated around your
CAG's
area,
terrain generator
set
is
to the
just bad.
seed everyone will share. So everyone's planets will look the same.
For
But
now,
what
at
won't
least.
look the same are the points of interest inside of those planets. This short little clip that was presented during the Direct confused a vast amount of people. Everyone wondered, will the points of interest look different on that part of the planet every time I visit it? And the answer to that
Nope.
is no. What they were trying to portray was how everyone's game's points of interest will be different. Bethesda has roughly created over probably
Wait, you can land anywhere? You sure about that, Jack?
at least a few hundred different and unique points of interest. So every time you land on a new planet, the game will analyze what type of planet it is, if it is barren, if it has water, if it is already booming with civilization, if it has alien life, etc, etc. And then according to the set parameters, the system will pull 1 or 2 points of interest out of the large library and place them randomly onto the map for you to see. This is a great system because it enables Bethesda to show the player what they want you to see while also retaining that sense of scale and vastness. Now, it was a relief to
The
hear about
music
the way
in
this system
StarField is
would work,
amazing.
and it
It's really
definitely
good.
did get rid of a large worry of mine. But there was another question that introduced itself after this, and it was, what if it starts to feel too artificial? What if every time you land on a planet,
Okay,
the
if
game
they said that
overwhelms
you can
with its
land anywhere, hopefully they're not lying. But again, you never know. Yeah, no loading screens. Okay, I mean, there's gonna be cutscenes for like landing and all of that, but like that's basically a mask for a loading screen. But sure.
points of interest. There's always dozens of bases around you and too much stuff to see. Wouldn't
that's
that
cool,
remove
Jack.
the feeling
That's
of
cool.
discovery and that needed?
But then again, how are you gonna explore all of that without a ship? Because as far as I know, you can't fly in the atmosphere.
Emptiness of a planet, especially ones in distant solar systems. It was worrisome to me as well that it may be too populated. But during a recent interview with Todd, he also clarified this question.
You know, I think it is a moment when you land on some of these barren planets. And again, we will generate certain things for you to find on them. But if you look at a planet, you see the resources, it has things you want. There is, I love the Buzz Aldrin quote, the magnificent desolation. I think there's a certain beauty to landing on those and feeling I'm one of the only people or the only person to ever visit this planet. So it's a difficult design thing. If you add too many things, if it's generating too many abandoned bases or towers or things to find, it starts feeling too gamey in some of those locations. So I think we've dialed that in pretty well.
So, yes, if you land on a barren, isolated moon far away from civilization, you probably won't see human bases in the area, and the game would rather prioritize points of interest created by nature itself. However, the system is also not flawless whatsoever. It has some giant limitations. In fact, this is the exact reason why rovers and atmospheric flight are not present in the game, because the system cannot generate new tiles that contain such detail and handcrafted content at such high speeds, especially if you're on a spaceship going hundreds of knots above the planet's surface. But the system in the end allows for more detail than ever, especially comparing it to other space games where exploration becomes dull only after a few hours. Furthermore, I saw more skepticism on how the areas which you will land in work. Will it only be explorable inside of that 1 kilometer tile the game generates, or will the game generate tiles as you walk?
No, that's the question.
This is something that has only been vaguely clarified by Todd, and that was in an interview over a year ago. Hear this.
Well, the first when we did it was, how are we going to render a planet, like pull it off for the player? Like, can we? Or do we have to sort of do it where you can't land on all of them, where you're landing in a very controlled, small world space that we, kind of craft, and you would have a very limited set of those.
Mhm.
If you go back to tone, like, well, that's probably the wrong tone. And how can we say yes? Like, I want to land on that ice ball. So we started the game.
So, I do believe planets will be kind of endless.
What's the fucking answer though? What? Is it 16 times the detail? If you don't know what he's talking about, let me just show you.
16 times the detail.
Yep. 16 times the detail. Fallout
Name the
76 was about to be with like 16 times the detail.
As you walk towards the edge of one tile, the game will generate a new tile in the background, which once again gives further reasoning why land vehicles and atmospheric flight on the game are not present, because it would overload the system. Even more evidence of this actually comes out of a Reddit post made by Bet Stranger. As you can see in the screenshot taken from the direct, the player is 1,200 meters away from the ship, meaning 1.2 kilometers, which is greater than the 1 kilometer tile Todd said. So it is evident that no, You will not be limited to explore around your ship. This is truly all great, but even after all of this very positive information, I still have one small worry about the system, and that involves how many handcrafted points of interest has Bethesda really created. Now, as I said before, that the number of points of interest will range in probably at least a few hundred, but that is my own speculation. Bethesda has actually not said anything about the number of points of interest they have made, and if this number falls too short, such as only in the few dozens, then that is a giant problem. Because if the same points of interest begin to repeat only after visiting a dozen or so planets, that can be quite immersion breaking. For example, imagine if you saw the exact same crashed capital ship that you just saw a few hours earlier, but on a different planet. Hopefully, Bethesda is smart about this and has created a number where even when some points of interest begin to repeat and show up again, the player won't even notice it because it's been so long since they saw that exact same point.
So he's hoping for everything that we are hoping that CAG does properly, because they're currently not doing it properly. Sounds like a game I know. Exactly. So what he just said is that he's hoping that you will not have the same fucking derelict ship spawn over and over again around the whole verse, or whatever you want to call it, universe. So CAG is proud of that because they will make patch notes and do an ISC of them adding 3 new caterpillars, 3 new caterpillar derelicts on the 9 moons.
Smart about this and has created a number where even when some points of interest begin to repeat and show up again, the player won't even notice it because it's been so long since they saw that exact same point of interest. So anything above 300 would be a good amount. Furthermore, modders can take advantage of the system and pump out their own points of interest for the player to see, adding to the pool of the number. Other than that, the information that we've gotten during the direct and after does earn the procedural generation system a sense of optimism. And I genuinely do think that this procedural system will work extraordinarily well after looking at this design behind it. Can this video come back to haunt me? Of course. But Starfield has genuinely reignited that spark of excitement for video games that I've not felt ever since forever. It's the dream game I could ask for. A space title that takes itself seriously in its vastness, detail, and exploration, but is also layered with RPG mechanics that truly allow you to be immersed in its universe. But again, it is 2023, and while I am excited, I will not pre-order, and will wait for the reviews to roll in before I press that buy button. My own review you can expect only a few days.
I mean, you know what? We're all gonna fucking buy it on the day 1 on launch. I'm not gonna pre-order it, but I'm gonna buy it on like day 1.
After launch,
it's the same
if it does
thing,
end
right?
up being a disaster. But if it doesn't, then probably after a few months, because to be frank, it will take quite a long time to fully enjoy and take in such an experience that Starfield is being made out to be.
The music is phenomenal. Hopefully there's more to the soundtrack. But yeah. It's a good video. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm really skeptical. I'm really skeptical about all this. But we'll see.